Hello, I'm Kai Davies, and I'm the Graduate Program Coordinator at the Institute of Optics in the University of Rochester. I'm going to talk about the Optics PhD program today, but first I'll talk about the Institute of Optics itself. The Institute of Optics was founded in 1929, and it was the first academic program in the United States offering optics education. It has close ties to Optica, formerly known as the Optics Society of America, which was founded in 1916, also in Rochester, New York. The founders of Optica and the early faculty of the Institute of Optics were closely tied, and they include some very big names in optics, including Rudolph Kingslake, who is one of the pioneers of lens design. The Institute of Optics was also very proud to have one of the first female faculty, Jane Dewey, who is a pioneer in quantum optics. The Institute of Optics also seeded many other U.S. optics institutes, including the James C. Wyant College of Optical Science at the University of Arizona. We are very proud of our legacy here at the Institute of Optics. We have 45 current optics faculty, many of whom share roles with other schools within the University of Rochester, including the Center for Visual Sciences, which is located in the University of Rochester Medical Center, and the Laboratory for Laser Energetics, which is a Department of Energy research center located just south of the River campus where the Institute of Optics is located. We also have faculty co-appointed with ophthalmology, brain and cognitive science, biomedical engineering, electrical and chemical engineering, chemistry, and many other departments. Going on with our bragging rights, 3 of the 12 most cited books in physics were written by current and emeritus Institute of Optics faculty. Our alumni and faculty have started over 200 companies, and we have a proud tradition of entrepreneurship within the Institute of Optics. Most recently and most proudly, one of our UR PhD alumna, Donna Strickland, was awarded the 2018 Nobel Prize in Physics for her work on chirped pulse amplification, which she started as a PhD student in the Institute of Optics. She did this work along with her former professor, Professor Gerard Moreau, right at the Laboratory for Laser Energetics here at the University of Rochester. At the Institute of Optics, we also host the Industrial Associates program, which is of great benefit to our students. The Industrial Associates program is an industry and national research lab engagement program that is membership-based, where over 50 companies and research labs pay a membership fee for the privilege of engaging with our students and faculty. This benefits our students by connecting them directly with recruitment opportunities and full-size conferences 2 times a year, once in the fall and once in the spring semester, hosted right here in Rochester. We tend to have around 350 people, and it includes an optics-only career fair hosted directly by the Institute of Optics. It includes a curated resume collection and interview days, and it has been incredibly successful for connecting our students with internship opportunities as well as post-graduation employment opportunities. Also, it has encouraged our weekly donuts since 1974, which was the start of both our Industrial Associates program and our donut legacy, because in the Institute of Optics, we take our donuts very, very seriously. Continuing on a little bit more about our facilities, I mentioned that the Institute of Optics is located on River Campus. River Campus is the main academic campus here at the University of Rochester. That is a mere 3-minute walk from our medical campus, the UR Medical Center, which houses, of course, the Center for Visual Science as well as the Pflaum Eye Institute. And just a little further south, as I mentioned before, we have the Laboratory for Laser Energetics, which is a Department of Energy research facility which houses high-power lasers for nuclear research. We are very proud to have strong connections as well as optics PhD students working and performing research in all of our facilities and campuses here at the University of Rochester. The Institute of Optics is also the proud recipient of a National Science Foundation Regional Innovation Engines grant for $1 million. Our project is the Science, Technology, and Engineering for Laser and Laser Applications Research Project, STELLAR. Our project promotes the growth of the Institute of Optics facilities and faculty and aims to create and grow a diverse, workforce-focused laser ecosystem, leveraging the university's expertise and fostering innovation in the field. And this is continuing our focus on promoting quality, rigorous optics education and working towards the University of Rochester's motto of Meliora, ever better. So now that I've talked about the Institute of Optics a little bit, let's talk about the optics PhD in particular. Who succeeds in a PhD program? So a PhD is research-based, and it typically takes 5 or 6 years to complete here at the Institute of Optics. The shortest I've seen a program take in my experience, which is, just about 6 years with graduate coordination at this point, the shortest I've seen it take is 4.5 years. So keep that in mind. A PhD is mostly research. You do take a whole bunch of courses, but once you get further in, research is the vast majority of what you'll be doing. So if you turn out to not like research, that will make the PhD difficult for you. So with research, you need to have a great degree of self-motivation and drive to complete it, because your project is your own. You will have an advisor, you will have guidance and mentorship, but there's not going to be someone standing over your shoulder saying, do this, do that, here's your next step, here's exactly what you do next. So that can be a problem for some people if you're used to that kind of instruction and if you are not capable of being self-driven. And not everyone has to be a PhD. That's not the end of the world, but it's important that you as a prospective PhD sit down and have an honest conversation with yourself about how you feel about research and how you feel about the prospect of 5 years in a research environment. Another thing to consider is straight A's in the classroom does not mean that you will be the best researcher. I have seen several situations where there have been students who have been absolutely straight A students in the classroom, but because they were not independent thinkers or not creative thinkers in a lab environment, because they really did need someone saying, okay, and now the next step is this, and so you go A to B to C to D, they were unable to think creatively when faced with a research question, when posed with a research prompt. They could not take a situation and move from there. They could not thrive in a research environment. They could not transition from prospering in an academic setting, in a classroom setting, in a lecture setting, than prospering in a lab setting. And it was unfortunate, And it was hard for them to come to terms with that, but they were able to succeed in their career, but that career was not as a PhD. Now that I've perhaps shaken maybe a couple of you, let's continue forward. Who succeeds in a PhD program? Driven candidates with the ability to think independently, yet work collaboratively. So I can guarantee you as a PhD, you will have to figure out a problem independently in the lab, but then also work in a group to find solutions. So it's kind of both. You're going to have to work independently and then also seek solutions together with your peers and with kind of superiors at different levels, whether it's advisors, mentors, and then also your fellow students. And so if you absolutely hate any of those things, that's not a deal breaker, but you will have to learn to come to terms with that. And so I am here to lay it out for you straight because it's best for you to know what you're getting into. Now I want to talk about the components of most PhD programs and then compare that to our program here at the Institute of Optics. So for all PhD programs, you can expect that there will be some coursework and then a great deal of research going towards a written thesis conducted under a faculty advisor. Sometimes that advisor is selected for you directly at the time of your admission. That I find is the most common for most institutions in the United States. So here at the Institute of Optics, we do not match you with an advisor at the time of admission. We have a student-driven advisor matching system where the student has 8 months during their initial study to match with an advisor. That is different than many other programs, and that's kind of distinct for optics programs. Our first milestone, our first exam is called the preliminary here in optics. And ours is a sit-down test based on core courses taken in the first year as a PhD student. So our preliminary exam is taken in the first summer, 6 weeks after the spring semester ends. We do have a qualifying exam, usually taken in the third or the fourth year, where a student presents orally, gives a presentation on their thesis proposal, which is kind of a preliminary presentation outline thoughts on what your thesis will be. And then of course we have the final defense, which is a classical final defense. So what makes our PhD distinct is that our research advisor selection occurs over 8 months. You're not matched with a research advisor at the time of admission, and you're not matched for you. It's not done for you. You have a very active role. Students have a great deal of agency and a great deal of responsibility. They're an active part, and the advisor matching is student driven. It's also flexible. If students want more assistance with the process, we will help them. If they don't want any help with the process, it's all in their hands. We also do not require any lab rotations. We also don't require admissions interviews. So there are some programs where you receive an offer letter, but then you still have admissions interviews where if the interviews don't go well, or if you don't have an advisor that has funding for you, you still might not be enrolled in the program. Our program, if you receive an offer letter, you have been admitted, and even if your matching process doesn't go well, you will still be funded. We will still find a place for you. Your offer letter is binding on our part. Also, this is perhaps more common in large physics programs in particular. There are programs with preliminary exams, with that first initial exam after the first year, that use it to cut down the size of their cohort, where they use it to eliminate people from the program. We absolutely do not do that in the Institute of Optics. We take various measures to ensure that everyone who is taking the exam is prepared as possible to pass the exam. And we want everyone taking the exam to pass. We truly feel that anyone who is not passing the exam is a poor reflection on the Institute of Optics, and that is a failing of our program, because we are here to foster our students' success. So with that in mind, keep in mind, we are not here to pare down the size of our cohort with our prelim exam. So don't let that frighten you. We do have in our first year, instead of the lab rotations, things like that, we have 7 core courses. We have a full roster of courses in the first year. This is designed to set a solid optics foundation in the first year. This is designed to allow non-optics students to acclimate to an optics curriculum and to get everybody on the same playing field, so that no matter what area you go into within optics, within the various fields that touch optics, you will be conversant and prepared to go into research. Of course, you will take courses beyond the first year to go into deeper depths, depending on whatever area you specialize in. But after that first year, you will be prepared to branch out wherever you want to branch out. No matter which division of engineering or science or math that you come from as an applicant to our program, you will be all set after the first year. So keep in mind, we have no teaching requirements in the first year, and there is no research expectation until the summer. Part of this is because you don't match with your research advisor until April, and then we want you to be able to focus on that prelim exam. So it's not until after the prelim that we release you to have a research obligation. Of course, some students may choose to do some research before that, but in terms of obligation, that doesn't start until after the prelim exam. So, here in the Institute of Optics, we take our students' success incredibly seriously, and we put our money where our mouth is. So part of what we do to that end is offering tutoring, especially for our first year students, because transitioning to a PhD program can be rough. So if our students feel like they're struggling in a class, all they have to do is let me know, and I find a tutor from among our other graduate students. We pay that tutor from the department to offering tutoring services to the student that wants some more assistance in whatever course. And so this is available to everyone in our program. So I just want to remind people again, just because this is such a common thing in physics programs, we do not use the prelim to pare down our cohort. So if after the first year you feel like you are running into problems and you feel like you're not going to pass the prelim, we take that into account. And so we say, okay, if you don't feel like you're ready, we will be flexible, and we say, then wait and take it next year. We'll give you more time, because we are dedicated to student success, and we will be flexible with our program schedule if it is what a student needs to succeed. Some other distinct features of our PhD: we have a peer mentor program within the Institute of Optics where more senior PhDs are matched with first-year PhDs to offer them guidance and a source of information on a peer-to-peer basis. There's also mentoring programs across the university that students can opt into that are PhD to PhD, but also staff and faculty to PhD. The Institute of Optics also has an intensely collaborative culture. We do not encourage competition among our students. Our students are really, really encouraged to work together, study together, collaborate instead of compete. The academic world can be very competitive. Some programs can be very competitive, but whether it's our students or our faculty, the department itself encourages collaboration to the point that we don't give academic achievement awards among our PhDs because we don't want to encourage our students to compare grades because it encourages competitiveness, and we want our students to collaborate. We want our students to study together because especially for the prelim and especially in research groups, when students work together, they thrive together. Kind of going back to our bragging rights, the Institute of Optics has a strong reputation. And when you're first starting out as a PhD in your early career, having a big name on your resume can bolster your early career reputation. And whether you're staying locally or going internationally, a big name will travel. And so we want to hitch our wagon to your star and go places with you. So we hope you will take a journey with us. Also at the Institute of Optics, we offer various options for our PhDs. We do encourage our PhDs to take internships. With the tuition coverage our PhDs enjoy, they can take 2 internships to be reflected on their transcript. Most PhDs take their internships during the summer period or even during the regular semester, depending on what their research can accommodate. With our Industrial Associates program, we have a great series of opportunities for PhDs to connect with employers, and so many of our students take internships. It's very common, especially once students reach their 3rd and their 4th year. We also offer department-funded travel grants for conferences and for training programs such as the Seligman School. And we also do have students who conduct their research in absentia. So whether they have a faculty member who is conducting research at another institution, or whether they have a research project that is collaborative with another institution, we have had many students who are still University of Rochester students, but they are doing research at another institution. So we have students at Stanford University, the University of Waterloo in Canada, Goddard NASA Space Flight Center, the Air Force Research Lab, and even Marseille University in France. So I think I want to go visit her. And then also, we are very proud to say that our student groups are incredibly active. So our SPIE student group, so SPIE is a international optics and photonics professional organization that you may be aware of. Our SPIE student group is incredibly active and one of the largest in the world. So our student group does many activities, including outreach to local high school, undergraduate populations. They also take tours, have invited speakers. They even have potlucks among the local students. They're a great group. encourage the sense of community that we really value among our students. And we're very fortunate to have such a great and active student community here. Of course, we do have a student Optica association as well. I can't help but highlight our SPIE group when they are so large and well recognized by our SPIE Mother Association. Okay, now let's get into some of the more technical details. With an optics PhD, what's the financial package? So, you may already know that a PhD program is typically fully funded, and here at the Institute of Optics, our optics PhDs are fully funded as well. So our PhDs enjoy 100% tuition coverage for 90 credits. So that's a full tuition coverage for the entire program as long as you're taking optics courses. I'm afraid we don't pay for your violin classes, although you are welcome to pay for your own courses through the Eastman School, which is also part of the University of Rochester. Our PhD students are paid a full stipend for 2024-2025. That stipend is $36,000. Keep in mind, in the Rochester area, the cost of living is not as high as like the New York City area. Some people may have some confusion when they hear Rochester, New York. We're not actually in the New York metropolitan area, so make sure you're looking to the Rochester, New York cost of living estimates when you're trying to judge how much $36,000 really is. So don't look to the New York metropolitan area. Okay. We do have additional fellowships available as well. They're typically between $2,000 to $5,000, and this is added to the standard stipend for a period of 2 years. Our financial package also includes health insurance for 6 years. This health insurance is offered to everyone. You do not need to use this health insurance coverage. You can waive it if you have your own health insurance. You can use your own health insurance for a time and then opt into the health insurance offered through the UR at a later time if you choose. We also have mandatory health fee coverage, which covers on-campus health services. And the University of Rochester also offers child care cost reimbursements for those who have children who do incur daycare costs and things like that. Now, for the actual admissions process, applications are through a single ASNE application portal. ASNE stands for Arts, Science, and Engineering, which is the greater school where the Institute of Optics is held under within the University of Rochester. When you apply, you'll see ASNE a bunch of places. You don't need to be confused by that. That's where we fall under within the University of Rochester. It is okay to apply to multiple programs in the same admission season. That will not be a problem. It will not affect your application in any way, and the application committee will not see that you applied to multiple programs. There are separate applications for the Optics Masters and Optics PhD program. Students that apply to the PhD program but are denied are typically offered MS admission. They're prompted by email to see if they would like to be considered. So if you are considering both programs, it's generally okay to apply to the PhD program alone, so you don't have to duplicate your effort and do 2 separate applications and pay 2 separate application fees. You don't need to complete it in one sitting, so there's no reason not to start early. So start your application early, especially put your letter of recommendation information in early. It's courteous to your letter of recommendation writers. There's all sorts of reasons to get a head start on it. So let's actually dig into the application components now. So there's a form component, an online form where you put in your education history, your background, your contact information. There will be some questions about which areas in optics you're interested in, stuff like that. There's also a personal statement. In 1 or 2 pages, talk about yourself. There's not really a set guideline for this. We leave it very open-ended, which can make it harder in some ways. We recognize that. But this is a great opportunity for you. So don't phone it in and don't disregard it, because it is one of the only places where you have a chance to show your motivation and your personality. When we get these applications, they're kind of soulless. It's a bunch of numbers, and it can be so hard to see who a person is on these applications. So we really look to the personal statement and the letters of recommendation in particular to get a sense of who students are. So with a personal statement, it's a really great place to identify your goals, to give a sense of what your motivations are. And remember, for PhDs, we want a sense of drive, the students that want to do research. And so, if we can get a sense that, the student's driven, that gives us some confidence. Also keep in mind, the Institute of Optics, we love entrepreneurship. If you can tie some of your background into the legacy of the department, that can catch our eye. And, maybe there's some funding opportunities that you could tie yourself into if you show some entrepreneurial interest in your personal statement. Maybe you can end up with some fellowships in your offer letter. So definitely put effort into your personal statement. It's one of the only places where we get a chance to know who you are. Another thing you can use your personal statement for is explaining inconsistencies or underperformance in other areas. You don't need to, go into anything you're uncomfortable with, but if you, maybe had a hard time, or you had, let's say, a grade trajectory that started kind of poor and then got better, you can explain this or kind of tell the story of your growth as a student in your personal statement. And I will let you know, for many years working with the admissions committee, a student that has always had straight A's is not as desirable as a student that started off with lower grades but then grew to have strong grades. Because, eventually everyone will run into a challenge, an intellectual challenge. And if you've always been able to just, kind of roll with it, when you reach that challenge will be incredibly difficult. If you've already reached that intellectual challenge, if you've already had to overcome the hurdle, you've already been tested, your mettl's already been tested, you've already been hardened by adversity intellectually, that's compelling. So don't be afraid of your past underachievement or past struggle. That is admirable. That is something to value in yourself. So that's something you can talk about in your personal statement. You can talk about how, as an undergrad, I came into this and I was used to being the smartest kid in all of my AP E&M classes, and I thought I would rock it out. And then I hit my classes and I learned that I wasn't the smartest one in the room anymore, and it was really hard. But I learned how to study, and I learned the true meaning of hard work, and now I want to work really hard as a PhD. And that would really mean something to an admissions committee. So that's what I mean when I say that your personal statement is an opportunity. So, okay. Moving on, you also have your resume. So make sure that your resume is up to date. Less is more on your resume. So definitely have somebody like a career center or a faculty advisor look over your resume before you upload it, because it's good to have your resume looking sharp and professional, because we're looking at a lot of applications. Also, you'll need 3 letters of recommendation. You will enter the contact info of your recommenders into the application. You do not need to submit your application for the request for the recommender to upload the letter to go out. So you don't need to delay on entering this. You need to have the 3 letters in before we can review your application. So it's important to request it early. You don't want the letters to delay your actual review, because that's just a bummer for everybody. And it's very courteous to give your recommender plenty of time to do the letter. And of course, you want to be as courteous as possible because you want that recommendation to be as good as possible. So, enter that recommendation information early. When it comes to recommenders, it's good to have a recommender for all of the major experiences on your resume, but if that's not possible, that's not the end of the world. So if you have like a major internship, it's good to have the like supervisor or like the main PI as the recommender. But if that's not possible, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not worth stressing out over, because ultimately we understand. Because keep in mind, the people on our admissions committee are faculty who know how it is. So if you're working on an internship in a really big name research group, they know that you're probably not actually working day to day with the really big name researcher. So we understand. Don't stress. Other components you'll need your transcript. Just a heads up, you do not need to submit your official copy for review. We know that most people submitting your application in the fall haven't finished your spring courses, so you can submit your unofficial copy and then follow up with the official copy, at the time of enrollment. Keep in mind, your application does fall under academic honesty, so it's not like we would expect anyone to be forging anything, and it's not like we aren't going to check. So we will take your unofficial copy for now, and then we'll just circle back around with the official once you do have all your final grades in. We do recognize that official copies cost you money, so again, don't stress. We're on your side, we're working together, it'll be okay. We have a minimum GPA of 3.0 for our application. We will review applications where the GPA is below 3.0, however. We do not require GRE scores. We will accept GRE scores. I will say the most effective and valued GPA scores are those that fall in like the high 80th percentile, so like 86th percentile and above. If you receive a score that falls below the 85th percentile, maybe don't submit those. And if it doesn't benefit you, don't do it. We do require English proficiency testing if you are not a native English speaker or from a English-speaking country. It is waived for students that completed a 4-year program in the U.S. or from a program from an English-speaking country. We accept TOEFL, IELTS, and also Duolingo, which is a less expensive and more accessible option because it can be taken online. And we also accept just other documents, so it's an open upload. So you can do writing samples, you can do published papers, you can do certificate program. And so if there's something you're particularly proud of, you want us to see, you can upload it. And then something new that we started asking for last year is a diversity statement. So this is asking for a written declaration of how you as an individual fit into a diverse environment. This is also open format. It's intended to largely screen out those individuals who maybe cannot function so well in a diverse environment. We have individuals from a wide variety of backgrounds, all walks of life in the Institute of Optics. And again, we are a highly collaborative environment. So if you cannot work well together and function in a society, we need to know that. And so the diversity statement is part of how we do that. So if you're unsure of what to do, you can always reach out for guidance or reach out to me, and I can give you an initial read, an unofficial look over prior to submission if you're really unsure of if you've gotten what we're looking for on any of these components. So once you do submit your application, you will receive your decision notice via email. It will be an automated email through our application system prompting you to look at a decision notice, and hopefully that decision notice will be an offer letter. The offer letter will note your program, a start date, and a financial award. For the financial award for the PhD program, that will note your tuition discount, which would be 100%, a fellowship stipend, and if you had a fellowship. So your stipend is the base amount, which for 2024-2025 is $36,000, and a fellowship would be an additional amount, like an incentive award on top of that. So those are evaluated and awarded as part of the admissions process. There's no separate application, and we really look to personal statements and things like that be awarded to people that show particular interest in entrepreneurship, but most of them are awarded based on like academic merit, things like that. It's really, we use it to incentivize students that we particularly hope choose us for their PhD program. What is the admissions timeline? Applications open in September for the fall 2025 program start date. So for the PhD program, fall program start date is the only option. Because we have this schedule of core courses through the fall and spring, with advisor selection in the spring followed by prelim in the summer, we really can't accommodate a spring start unless for some reason you've come up through our undergraduate program and have already taken core courses for some reason, which is very rare. So unless there's a really extenuating circumstance, you've got to start in the fall. So spring start's really not an option. Keep that in mind. So anyone applying anytime soon, you're really looking at a fall 2025 program start or later. The deadline for fall 2025 applications is December 15th, 2024. We expect to have our decision notices and offer letters out by February 15th, and we absolutely will have them out by March 15th, 2025. Students need to have their decision whether they will accept their offers or decline their offers by April 15th. And of course, the actual start of classes in fall 2025 is August 25th. If you have any questions or you would like more information or assistance, you're encouraged to reach out to me. Again, my name is Kai Davies, and I'm the Graduate Program Coordinator by Information's here. And of course, I have the link to the Institute of Optics here. The information on applications is at this link here underneath the graduate section of the Institute of Optics website. One of the most frequently asked questions I receive is, should I apply for the optics PhD even though I have a blank background, whether it's physics or mechanical engineering, biomedical engineering, data science, computer engineering, mathematics, or whatever it is? And usually the answer is yes. Our first year core courses assure that all students receive a solid foundation in optics. Most students come from non-optics backgrounds because undergraduate programs that are strictly optics or even just optics focused are relatively uncommon. So if you do not have a strictly optics background, that's 100% okay. And most of your peers will be in the same boat. When in doubt, however, you can contact us for a pre-application evaluation of your readiness for the program. We'll want to see maybe your transcript or sometimes even just an idea of the program that you're in. Most of the time, if you're in a bachelor's of science or bachelor's of engineering, that's sufficient. You definitely need to have some amount of calculus. You definitely need to have an idea of physics. Those are what we're looking for. If you don't have calculus and you don't have some of the physics like electromagnetism to help you understand like waves and things like that, it would be very difficult. So if you're not sure if you have those two basic things, you should definitely reach out and we can discuss. And if I can't help you directly, I will connect you with one of our faculty who can take a look at your background or have a conversation with you and make sure that you're prepared for the program. Because like I said, students that are underprepared or who are struggling don't benefit our program. We want our students to thrive. That's what makes us thrive. We want to go up with you. We're taking you with us. Another question we receive often is, do I really need to provide proof of English proficiency, such as the TOEFL or IELTS? So the requirement for language testing is waived for citizens of the US, Australia, Canada, the Commonwealth, Caribbean nations, Ghana, Ireland, Kenya, Liberia, New Zealand, Nigeria, Singapore, South Africa, Uganda, United Kingdom, and the Virgin Islands. Or if you have completed at least 3 years of studies in one of these countries. So, if you haven't, I do need proof of English proficiency. Keep in mind that we do take Duolingo testing, which is less expensive and can be completed online. So if you don't have access to TOEFL or IELTS testing sites, you can do the Duolingo. But we do need that, and that's not a department requirement, that's a university requirement. I can't waive that. Speaking of waivers, are application fee waivers available? Yes. However, you must reach out to me at kai.davies@rochester.edu to request a waiver. We have to use our application fees to fund the application website. So if we give out too many waivers, we can't fund our website. So I have to keep track. I can't just give like a blanket waiver. Also, keep in mind our waivers can only be granted after an application has been submitted. You have to submit an application without paying it. It's a little tricky because when you submit an application, it prompts you to pay it, but you can't pay it because I can't give a refund. So let me break it down for you again. If you want a waiver, you have to email me and you have to submit your application, but you cannot pay it because I can give a waiver, but I cannot give a refund as much as I would like to. And this is not a great system, but it's the system we have. So please keep that in mind. I can give waivers by request. You have to submit the application. You must not pay for the application because I cannot give a refund. Sorry for repeating myself, but this has tripped up many students in the past, and I absolutely cannot give refunds. I'm terribly sorry. And this also may seem a little repetitive too, but I receive this question all the time. So how much does a PhD program cost? So, the PhD program is fully funded for at least 6 years, as long as you remain in good academic standing. So, for the vast majority of these students, the program is fully funded because you should finish your program within 6 years. After 6 years are complete, your funding is dependent on your advisor's research funding. You can take that as additional incentive to finish your program within 6 years. The only fees that our PhDs are responsible for are miscellaneous fees. So every PhD student is responsible for a $10 activity fee each semester, which goes towards like student events on campus. Thankfully, this is only $10 each semester. And then for students who have an F1 student visa, they also have a $53 semesterly fee, which goes towards additional visa support services, which are necessary for, allowing them to study in the U.S. and have their I-20, things like that. Our F1 student visa holders also receive tax services, that semesterly fee. So thankfully, our grad students do not receive many fees, where I think students at the undergraduate level maybe are more used to higher fees. So thankfully, our grad students are spared some of those random fees. And a final question, since we were talking about visas, can the PhD program support international student visas? Absolutely yes. Roughly half of our students are international students, so students who are here on an F1 student visa. The default visa type for our international students is F1. If you, for some reason, perhaps an outside fellowship or funding, have some reason where you need to be on a J1 visa, we can also do that, but the default status is an F1. If you have dependents, such as spouse or children, you can also bring them with you under an F2. And so once you are admitted to the program and we're going and accept your offer and we're going through the enrollment process, that's when we would complete the paperwork for your visa for both you and any dependents. So, just as a reminder, here is where you can find my contact information, as well as additional information on applying and our application link. I encourage you to reach out if you have any questions or concerns, and it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for your time and attention.